Hello, my name's Helen Tovey and I'm editor of Family Tree. I'm going to talk today to Sue Adams about her talk at the forthcoming Secret Lives conference. And she's going to be talking about women as found in the Manorial Court records, particularly looking at the property records and the clues you can find out about the property that women might have owned or been involved in some way. So how did you first get into this? How did you start realising there were special clues about women in these records?
I used to think that women didn't appear in property records because historically, before the late 19th century, women didn't own property. But that doesn't mean that they don't have rights. I first came to these Manorial Court records through a will that said, and I leave some copyhold land. Now, a copyhold, I didn't know what that meant, is a type of landholding, and it's called copyhold because the details of the transfer are recorded in the Manorial Court roll, and a copy is made that the person goes away with, and that's the proof of ownership of that piece of land.
So that is actually a copyhold document?
That is a copyhold document, yes.
And that's their copy, that's what it's called. I love it. It's very practical, isn't it, once you break it down?
It is, yeah. It is.
And so what sort of stage would somebody be at when they might start to find Manorial Court records useful for finding out about property in their family?
When you've got a clue that there's some property in the family, that's the time to start looking, particularly if it's that magic word copyhold, because then it is manorial property rather than freehold, which is another whole long complicated story. It's even more complicated. So if you think there's some land, then you need to start, and especially if it's copyhold, start trying to figure out which manor it is.
Mm-hmm. And you might find this out from, say, you've got to have details of the parish they live in, and then could you use a website like the Family Search Maps website? Would that tell you about manorial boundaries, or are you looking at your local record office? Manorial
boundaries are fantastically difficult because the way the property is described is it's so-and-so's land to the north and somebody else's land to the south, and we'll take a walk around, it's a bit like a drunken pub crawl with only a vague description of where you went. And a lot of the manorial boundaries were described way back in the 13th, 14th centuries.
So you've got quite complicated records, and then within that, finding the women's stories and the details of the property that they, as you say, had rights to, then that's another whole layer of in-depth research, isn't it? So if somebody was going to use these records to find their female ancestors, what would be the best approach for them to take to have their way into the records, so to speak?
I'd advise looking for a group of people, the family as a whole, rather than trying to hone in on one woman, because she might not be named, even though she's there and having an influence.
So I always put people in their context, because finding one woman, is precise and isolated. Yeah, okay. And so out of these, out of the research you've done, are there any particular case studies or like the nature of some properties that women have had rights to that you found interesting, or what is it which has captured your imagination? Is it just the puzzle of dealing with such a difficult record with presumably difficult handwriting? So you've got every challenge on every aspect set up against you, and you like the awkwardness of it all.
Well, they're fascinating records because there's what the law says that you could do, and then there are the things that people do to try to circumvent that. Like a loving father, although the law says that his son gets the property, he might want to go to his daughter, so he might go to extraordinary lengths with setting up all sorts of fancy legal trusts and things to try to give her what he would like her to have.
Mm. That's quite encouraging. It's quite an insight to the past that it's not necessarily such a patriarchal society. There's people who are trying to, it's like the human side of it, what people actually felt, their bonds they had with particular children, say. So if he's trying to deliberately go to those levels to get his daughter to have some property.
Well, I mean, a lot of parents aren't necessarily nasty in that way, but they try to do their best for all their children, within the constraints of the system, which doesn't always quite gel with that. The intention behind a lot of the system is quite protective quite often. And depending on who the participants are, it can go either way.
And out of the records that you've looked at, with whether it's Manorial records or other records you've used for your family history research, both as a professional researcher and for your own family's research, are these records that you turn to time and again? Now you like using them, and you've obviously clearly done a lot of research into them. There's something that you think they're so interesting, they're well worth going back to.
Well, I got totally hooked on manorial records. And it led from my own family, and then I wanted to know more, and then I got more and more intrigued. And a master's degree later, you never stop learning, and every manor is different. Each manor kind of has its own tweak on the rules. So, and figuring out what's going on in each particular manor is fascinating.
It definitely sounds like the theme of your talk fits into the conference, that they're not necessarily easy facts to find. They're kind of more hard to find details from history, but then they're well worth going to those extra lengths to get the skills and to understand the records, to learn about that. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'd agree, because there's a wealth of property records, particularly in the period before civil registration and before the census. The golden age for manorial property records is 1733, when they start being written in English, to the 1830s, after which they start to decline because land got converted into freehold. After that date. That started happening. But in that century, which is when you don't have a lot of other records, it's quite so easily accessible. You don't have those easy records anymore. So if your family owned property,
you're within luck, aren't you?
If you really are in luck.
Yeah.
And if they kept it in the family, even better.
Yeah.
And if they had females in succession, better still, because it gets even more revealing.
Yeah, that sounds very, very interesting. And also, what are you looking forward to over the weekend of the Secret Lives conference? What are you most looking forward to?
Well, there are so many really good talks. I can't wait to hear it.
So as well as giving a talk, it's sitting back and absorbing information and different angles.
You never know everything, because we're not going to live long enough to learn it.
I know, it's really annoying, isn't it? Yeah.
And other people have other takes on things.
Yeah.
And it would be really great fun to talk to people about what they're doing and what they found.
So it's not just the talks, isn't it? It's just the socialisation in between. And getting a chance to catch up with people.
Yeah, you have a chat with people and you find out things you didn't know.
Yeah, that sounds excellent. Thanks, Sue.